passe l'artiste. Super, encore un but sensationnel. 25 points. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De i semifinale igjen!
Welcome to the Uninformed Handball Hour, where, as always, I'm joined by Chris O'Reilly.
Hello, Alex.
And Brian Campion.
Hello, Alex, and hello, Chris.
And today we are going to be talking about the biggest, most exciting European handball club competition of them all. And that is the European League, of course.
Yo!
The European League, the new Champions League.
Who needs the best clubs when you have the second level clubs playing better than them?
True. That was quite a day, quite a couple of days in the last 16 of the European League. Difficult thing about it is you have, in that round, 8 matches happening over the course of one evening. And particularly, I think, on Tuesday with the second leg, there were 6 matches on at once, which made choosing the games to watch fairly difficult. I mean, I don't know which games did you actually decide to focus on in the end?
I had to focus in on that little group that's going on where Nantes were playing Füchse Berlin, and then simultaneously we had Sporting versus Magdeburg, and where Nantes came out on top against Füchse Berlin, and Magdeburg squeezed the result against Sporting, which we'll, I think, get into in a lot more detail, to set up a quarterfinal match between, again, probably the two biggest teams, Nantes and Magdeburg, to get into the Final Four. But it was a really exciting round. Maybe it was the fact that there was so much peril throughout the last 16 round, and I thought it was good to have all the games at the same time. Well, not all the games at the same time, but more to have so many games on in that round. It really kind of built the excitement a little bit more than the Champions League, where really there was 4 games, a bit of excitement, but it felt a bit weird to have the best teams not playing in that playoff round. Especially the top 4 teams in the Champions League not playing in that round. But European League, we had all the best teams playing, all the best teams fighting it out. And I think we should probably get into that ending of the Sporting and Magdeburg game.
Yeah, I think it was the right decision by the referees. No, I don't. No.
Well, I think without going into too much detail, we were speaking about it to people who know better than us, actual referees, and not to name any names.
We won't name any names, but you might be able to figure it out if you think about it.
Yeah, if you really think about it. There was no two ways about it, in their opinion. That the referees ruined the end of that game. And it's a point that I think we've had in the past, and I think in general a good rule for referees is you don't want to be the one who decides the end of the game. You let the players decide the end of the game. But when you give 2 2-minute suspensions with just under 2 minutes left, you quite literally decided the game. Particularly decisions which could have been easily avoided. You know, in the case it was Sporting had a goal disallowed, which in itself was really hard to know, really whether it was not like how you could not give it a goal. It was whether a player was inside or not. It was Kiko Costa with the goal, which wasn't allowed. He didn't look like he complained too much. He kind of waved his hands in the air. It's like, what is this? He gets a 2-minute suspension. The coach then gets angry, his father. He gets a 2-minute suspension. And then they're down to 5 men for the rest of the game. And I think, you know, when you do that, you basically just decided, okay, you're not gonna win this game.
I think the worst thing for me was I really felt like they had them on the ropes big time. And it's not like they were just catching up. I really felt like if for the last 2 minutes, I think they would have actually went on to win it. That's just the feeling with the momentum in the game towards the end, especially. I felt they had the wind in their sails, and I think they probably would have.
They didn't even need to win it; they just needed a draw, and then they would have won on away goals. So Yeah, felt very harsh. Just felt like an unfortunate way to finish it. And I don't think anyone, including the Magdeburg players, would have wanted that to be the case. It also puts them in a weird situation. And that was visible as well. The good old, like, the trope of playing with 2 extra men in attack is also, like, never really a good thing. They almost lost the ball and would have lost the goal in a fast break then because, yeah, I think you just want to win it 6-on-6 or 6-on-5, but not 6-on-4. That just added a weird pressure as well to them.
It's just such a pity that that monumental performance from Sporting over 120 minutes was decided by a couple of 2-minute kind of dodgy 2-minute suspensions at the very end. Really impressive by Sporting, though. Really, really impressive by the Costa family. So, starting with the coach of Sporting Lisbon, the father of Martin, who's 19-year-old left back, and 17-year-old sensation Kiko Costa was the real breakout star of this round. 17 goals over 2 games against Magdeburg is pretty impressive, and just the array of shot making that we saw from underarm, jump shot, breakthrough, kind of had everything. Actually dumbfounding to think that a 17-year-old can do that against a bunch of grown men who are some of the best handball players in the world.
I don't know if my memory is correct of this now, but I remember when Nadim Remili broke onto the scene, I don't remember him doing things like that. I remember him kind of almost being on the tail end of good concepts and kind of finishing things off, and people are like, God, he's very settled for his age. I'm not sure if I remember that correctly now, but these 2 brothers, like, there's some of the goals that they were, the audacity of some of the stuff that they were doing, like in-flight from left back to right back, in-flight goals, and just playing with like such confidence. And it's unbelievable to see 2 brothers at that age, and now they're just like, they're like the new handball brothers. Move over, Nicola and what's his other?
You've already moved them over.
Yeah.
No, it's really, really exciting, and everyone's going to be knocking on the door now for the next year or so, trying to get the signatures, and it's a really interesting position for them to be in. Also, because there's still the potential, right, for the Champions League next season with the club. So I reckon they'll stay there for a little bit longer. They won't be both moving to Hanover, Bergdorf, or Melsungen just yet.
Yeah.
I think their dad will be keeping them on the wraps for a little while. Clearly, he's doing a very good job with them.
I think they probably should stay there for a while as well, because they seem to have got a good thing going now, and why would you want to kind of interrupt that? Like, if they're playing European League or Champions League next season, whatever it is, it's a perfect stage for them to develop. Clearly,
the Portuguese handball domestically, we've spoken about it for a couple of years now, but it seems to be at the very top, stronger than it's ever been. With Porto, Benfica, and Sporting, they really, all 3 clubs are at a very, very good level. And Benfica are actually in the quarterfinals of the European League as well, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah, Benfica overturned a tricky first leg against Phoenix Toulouse. I think it was a 4-goal deficit that they overturned in the second leg, thanks to 14 goals from Petr Djordjic. He's really fired it up for Benfica, so pretty exciting to see. They will play Gorenje Velenje in the quarterfinals, who took care of Nîmes, a Nîmes team that has struggled a bit with injuries, but pretty good to see a Slovenian club at that stage still. Then on the other side, in the other quarterfinal, we'll have Nexa, who were my hot tip before the season started for the European League. They've made it through to the quarterfinal, and they'll play GOG, who, despite the various injuries, are still going and still dangerous. And then in the last quarterfinal, we have Wisła Płock, again, a team that we've been very impressed by, playing against Cadet Schaffhausen, who just about squeezed through against Sebehoff on away goals. So I think Wisła Płock have a good opportunity there to make their second consecutive appearance. But looking at that quarterfinal lineup, we only have one German team, which
great news.
It's a great day for the neutrals.
It's a great day for the neutrals. Because now, if you remember back, like when we talked about, like we were keen on the European League for the whole season, and then it got to the final tournament, and we were like, nah, 3 German teams, and Pots could kind of kill the vibes a little bit. And now 8 teams from 8 different countries in the quarterfinals is pretty good. Just one thing on that Cadet and Severhof game. I was watching that at the same time as Nantes and Berlin, and yeah, that was unfortunate as well. I mean, Severhof were kind of robbed there at the end with a decision against Skepa Goethe, who didn't get a penalty or a free throw that he should have gotten, and that caused their downfall in the end. He was brilliant. 7 goals, 9 assists. So really stepping up for Severhof there. Another young talent. And I was going to say before we moved on from the Costa brothers, like the future of Portuguese national team handball is safe in their hands. You're wondering now, like, if they're going to have a bit of a lull, but then you see players like that come through. And I look forward to seeing battles between Portugal and the Faroe Islands in years to come.
Yeah, if you think about a few years ago, think, the best players they're going to break out in the next few years are going to be from the Faroe Islands and Portugal. But like, what are you talking about? What are you smoking?
And Severhof have signed another young Faroese talent as well, who, as Brian mentioned, he looks almost exactly the same.
It's been a really good showcase of young talent, the European League. Some of these, let's say, second level clubs who really put their faith in their big rising stars like Kiko Costa. We've seen Kostaratov really shine for Wisla Plock. Emil Matson has been huge for Geo Gay. You know, these are all teenagers, 20, 21-year-olds who are really lighting up the competition, which has been exciting.
Why has the European League seemed so much more exciting than the Champions League till this point? Is it purely to do with the format, or is there something else going on here?
What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and it is probably natural that the European League, the second level competition, would take a step up when the amount of teams in the Champions League was reduced. So that's a natural step. The fact that we only have 16 teams in the Champions League means that we're seeing some of these bigger teams from the bigger leagues competing, and to see a game like Nantes versus Füchse Berlin, you know, second in France versus third in the Bundesliga at a last 16 stage in the European League, you know, that could easily be a Champions League quarterfinal. I think we're talking about that. Same again with Magdeburg versus Nantes in quarterfinal.
It may well be a quarterfinal in next season's Champions League.
Yeah, easy. So that's a reason why the European League has been able to step up. The Champions League is a weird one, and I was quite disappointed with this playoff round that we just saw. With 4 games, none of them really having too much excitement in the second leg, too much peril. Both of you are sitting in Budapest after being at the Szeged Flensburg game, which, you know, we all really hoped would be the exciting game where Szeged could maybe turn around an aggregate score, but that didn't really come to fruition. What did you take away from that game?
I don't know. I think we saw a different Szeged after Christmas, and I don't know if that was some sort of Euro hangover. But when they lost to Zagreb directly after the Euro, I think that was kind of a sign of this is maybe not the same Szeged that we saw at the start of the season. And we think back to, you know, Szeged finishing third in the group and Flensburg finishing way down on 10 points in Group B. And now it seems to completely have flipped. And Flensburg, even though they were still missing players, seemed to have a lot more power and a lot more about them. And Szeged just kind of seemed to have especially in defense, just have, I don't know, not to be as fired up as the crowd were in the arena, because the crowd were really giving it socks for large parts of the game. But then midway through the second half, I think they also kind of gave up a little bit. And it's such a shame, because we were talking about it yesterday. That arena is like the best handball arena in the world now. And somehow the game yesterday didn't live up to it. And it kind of fell flat to a certain extent, because they got within 3 goals, 3 times?
Yeah, we're leading by 3 goals, so we're down by 1 in aggregate then. But the thing is, we knew very early on they needed to win by 5 in that match because of the away goals rule. And yeah, I mean, the the defense was so passive. That was the big takeaway for me. They looked super aggressive right in the first couple of minutes. They were like riding on the wave of the fans' emotion. But then they allowed Mads Mensa and Ian Gottfriedson just to control the 8-9 meter area, which they can't do. Like, they came into contact so many times, and those two players in particular are so good at that. They're going to we're going to come in and tease you here. You can either come out and stop us, and then we're going to try and beat you anyway, or you let us do it and we'll take a shot. And between the two of them, I think they ended up with maybe 14, 15 goals. And that and transition defense was brutal. And even though they got within one goal on aggregate and had a couple of great chances on fast breaks to make it a 4-goal game and draw level, Flensburg always looked kind of in control. They always looked very comfortable, and that they dictated the pace of the game. They never looked too flustered, and I think a lot of that is down to Gottfriedson in the centre of attack. And yeah, they just never looked too perturbed by the situation, which says a lot about the maturity of the Flensburg players.
And I suppose one thing is that we are seeing the decline or the transition of the Sega team led by Dejan Bombac. It really feels like he's not the all-conquering, all-controlling player he once was.
He's still very good.
Still very good, but it's not quite, you know.
I know what you mean.
Can I take it back to what you said at the beginning of the season? And this really played into my mind during the second half. You're on my mind there when you said at the beginning of the season, this Sega team looks like Bombac is going to make the moves and set up the two big lads to shoot in the backcourt or find Banhidi on the line. There was no Banhidi on the line. There's still a couple of decent players in Rosta and Gabor, but not the same level. So it was just Tunnison and Garciandia on the right-hand side, Bodo on the left-hand side, sometimes Maciekowski, and it was just a simple switch move. Big boys, go shoot. And Bodo was like, 3 from 10? 3 from 11? And he scored 3 brilliant goals, but 8 really bad misses. And it was exactly what you said at the start of the season. So I was really kind of disappointed not to see Martins. I thought Martins' style of play would have fit facing that Flensburg team, particularly when you see the way that Bombac was able to tear through the defense sometimes. If you had Martins coming at speed and moving the way he does, he could have provided a lot more difficulties, even as a left back.
It seems like what you're saying there basically is that the Szeged squad, it seems a little bit unbalanced to a certain extent. That you seem to have a lot of these kind of B players, whether it was Maciekowski, Bodo, Gabor on the line, who are good solid players, but they're not going to, when push comes to shove at the really, really big games, are they the people who are going to really turn it up? And in the past, I think it was Rasmus put out a point yesterday, when Pick Sega were at their peak, they had players like Chelman, Makeda and Canielas with great defensive skills who also could contribute offensively. And it felt like that Sega were missing these pieces of the puzzle yesterday. They didn't have basically those nut jobs, or someone like Canielas who, just give him the ball, he'd probably do something like.
Yeah.
I think it is a natural transition. Most teams have a limited lifetime as a squad together. This Sega team has been on the rise for about 5-6 years now. They have revamped it a little bit, and it's still the same core. So I think they need to really look next year and over the next couple of years to see how they can really change it around. A little bit disappointing. I think we all like Szeged a lot, but you never count out Flensburg.
Yeah.
Never count out.
Was this playoff round that bad then? I mean, you have Flensburg who managed to upset Szeged. Montpellier, Porto should have maybe been a better second leg. That's I think down to Montpellier being good and Porto just not delivering on the day. And then the other two results were actually kind of closer than you'd expect. And then you're saying, we missed out on the first and second place teams in there, but they would have just hammered the teams in 7th and 8th place in the playoffs. So is it that bad after all?
But would they have hammered?
Well, I mean, Brest and Zaporozhye wouldn't be in the competition anyway at this point, because of very obvious reasons with the war. And then you have Zagreb. I mean, come on. Zagreb would have faced Barca, but that would have been a hammering.
Yeah, I think we can kind of get into it a little bit about the format, because there was also some discussion on Twitter about this and whether this format is, truly leads to excitement. And some of the criticisms are that there are probably too many group games where the big teams are playing each other, but it devalues those big games. Although I don't think that was the case this year, because we did see such an exciting group battle between especially Kielce, PSG and Barca. They really had to fight each other, and every game seemed really important to get those key standings positions in the standings. And PSG, having lost that battle, now face a quarterfinal against Kiel, which is very significant. So it does put importance on that first round. For me, it just feels a bit anticlimactic that you have these 4 best teams go through and then you don't see them play in the next round.
But I don't think we'd be watching those games in this round.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, are you really going to watch Aalborg against Dinamo Bucuresti? I don't think so. When like at the same time you could have like basically one of the games we saw today. You've like Flensburg versus Szeged or Aalborg against Dinamo Bucuresti on at the same time. I know where you're coming from. I understand, but I was looking at the Twitter discussion you mentioned, and I said to Brian at breakfast there, I was like, there's a reason why these guys aren't the ones making the decision at the end, because it was just a bunch of guys going, I like this, but I like this, well, I like this, and nobody actually discussing. They're like, I think it should be this way, I think it should be this way, I think it should be this way.
But that's why we're here.
That's why
we're here to add the discussion.
At the end of the day, yeah, true. At the end of the day, like the big thing about whether you have too much of these big teams facing each other in the group phase, that is what the clubs wanted. That is why the clubs basically decided this format. It wasn't like the EHF did it with them to avoid any potential like breakaway, because the clubs want to be able, they need to sell tickets. They want to have TV deals. When we were in Barca a few weeks ago to see the group phase game against Veszprém with a great crowd, that doesn't happen in Barca. That's why they want this. They want to face the big teams week in, week out if possible, and so that they can build something there. I understand from the fans' perspective that it would be special if they only face each other once every couple of years, but it's not the UEFA Champions League.
Yeah, but I would still add, so you're mentioning the teams that were knocked out, and yes, they're of a lower standard, but we just spoke about the high standard in the European League. Mm-hmm. And I think you could easily have a couple of additional teams in terms of, another French and another German team in the competition would, that would make those last 16 games more exciting. If you have a Nantes or a Magdeburg or a Füchse Berlin in the competition, you get a second team from Poland, which is Wisła Płock, who have been incredible. So that beefs up that group stage. You might again, we're talking about expanding, whatever, but I haven't completely thought through the way it will work.
It sounds like the last one, the 4 groups of 6 teams, 2014.
I think that I would be closer to that one. Okay. Beef it up a little bit, but beef it up with the top leagues as opposed to the likes of the Turkish league and etc. So you beef it up at the top as opposed to spreading it out at the bottom. So that increase.
Then you're taking away from the European League.
But then the European League gets the Turkish teams.
No, Alex, we have them, and they have a chance to qualify, and they don't.
It's fine to take away from the European League. We want one competition where
is it though?
Everything is happening to maximize the...
Yeah, but when we get to the quarterfinal stage in both competitions now, they're both going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the big idea behind the European League in the first place was to narrow the gap between the Champions League and the EHF Cup.
And that's happened.
And that's definitely happened.
But is that, you know, for
Too much.
for us, and probably a lot of people listening to this podcast, that's great. We love watching the European League. But for the broader handball fan, if you want to showcase the sport and expand the sport, how many people are going to watch the second level of European handball?
Yeah, no, I agree with you there as well, because sometimes you're watching it going, God, the European League is really good. Should it really be this good? And you're watching the Champions League some weeks and you're like yes, like the last playoff matches, and it's kind of like a lot of dead matches, and you're like, something isn't quite right here with the mix of teams, I think.
Yeah,
because the worst teams in the Champions League, I think, are probably a good bit worse than the best teams in the European League. Do you know? And that's not right in a way.
And just to add to it, it seems like, so I mentioned that this playoff round felt a little bit dead in terms of, I know, just to showcase the fact that there's only 4 games, the best teams are missing. And when you're talking about, for the clubs, the big, you know, moneymakers, the big TV deals, why not, instead of pushing it into the group stage, those big games, expand the knockout stage and make that, you know, look at a team like Barcelona. Their reward for, you know, finishing top, or usually they finish top, and then they play one big home game in the quarterfinal. So they get one opportunity to sell out an arena, or, you know, go for the big ticket game. And then it's the final 4, which is, you know, a showcase itself. So we're really getting this one round in the middle. By decreasing the amount of games in the group stage, and then I actually like the idea of even a 3-legged tie for the quarterfinals and the last 16. So what you get for finishing top of the group is you get your home advantage. So it means that if you go to a 3rd leg, that will be at home. So you still get that advantage. That gives an opportunity for these big teams to, you know, sell another big game. So you have, you know, it's not always going to happen, but you're going to have some pretty amazing kind of sudden death winner takes all games as a 3rd leg in both the last 16 and the quarterfinal. So how amazing would it be to actually have a 3rd game between Szeged and Flensburg? Now, it would make that 2nd leg so much more exciting, because all Szeged need is a win. They don't need to turn around a 4 or 5 goal advantage. That win would probably be enough for them, and it would change the dynamic. So it would increase the tension in the 2nd leg, even if one game is a demolition, which happens in handball. You know, teams show up, other teams don't, but it still puts a lot of pressure on a 2nd game. And we've seen in this competition the amount of teams that have beaten each other. And on the day at home, I think most teams in the competition can pull out a win. Even even Dinamo Bucharest beat Barcelona this year. So you have that extra excitement for that 2nd leg, and then potentially kind of a big game in the 3rd leg. And by what it adds is more games for the players. So that is, it's a big thing. And mostly this, let's say, last 16 or quarterfinal games are also happening after the European Championship or World Championship. So that is a lot of strain. But you reduce the amount of games in the group stage to accommodate that.
You might get more blowouts though when teams are losing that first game. They might go, right, we're losing this anyway by 7. Let's just take our foot off the gas here, and then it's not competitive at all for the first game. But we'll save it for the 2nd game. But we're talking about this stuff now. I mean, there's a lot of. I feel like we're getting into this discussion every season. But do you think there actually will be a change in the next few seasons if we see, because the draws now for the Champions League seem almost like, okay, yeah, the draw.
This is only the 2nd season, isn't it?
No, yeah, but then when we go to the 3rd season next year and we see the draw, and you see Kiel come up against PSG in the group, no one's like, oh, whoa, do you know? So it's lost that shine in that regard. The first season was like, oh, this is incredible, these 2 groups. But I feel like the shine will go, whether you think it's good or bad. But will there be a change maybe in the next 3-4 seasons, or what would bring that?
On the flip side of that, you'll have, like in Germany, still the potential of 2 new teams in the competition. Yeah. Which, if you have like three German clubs, and that kind of sheen and novelty goes away, like potentially Magdeburg and Fuchse in the competition next season. Nantes will be back in, Montpellier will be out. unless they win the competition, I guess. And you could have a team like Sporting or Benfica or someone in Portugal instead. So, and well, chances are there'll be no Meshkov Brest. Hopefully there'll be a Motor Zaporozhye. It doesn't look very good in that sense, but there'll be a couple of other spots as well. Yeah, so it is technically the third season of the competition. The first one was cut short because of COVID, went straight to a Final Four. The second one, all the teams played in the playoff because of COVID. This is the first season where they've actually had a chance to try out this format. So maybe they'll give it a bit more time before deciding what to do. But at least as far as from what I've heard in the past, is like it is kind of a fluid thing, and they do of course have to listen to the clubs, and the clubs are almost the most important thing in this sense because it has to be worthwhile for them. So this at the moment was kind of the solution that worked for them. And maybe they will get bored of playing each other.
To the old system, then you have empty halls, and then it's just like for a load of games, and then that's the negative aspect of that as well. When you've like
potentially,
I still think there's enough top clubs to be fit out in a good way without getting the likes of Besiktas in. I think we all remember those Besiktas games, and everyone wants to avoid that. But there is enough good teams in Europe to avoid that if it's done in a smart way. And then you can use the European League for that development of handball.
So one word answer for both of you, right? Should they abandon the wildcard system?
You mean the additional place?
The additional place system.
No, I would like qualifiers as well. But if it's then a qualifier between Nantes, AEK Athens, Besiktas, and Nexa, who's going to qualify from that?
Yeah,
not
Nexa.
Anyway, I think that's enough. Let's look at the. Let's look at the quarterfinals quickly. We will go into them more before the actual quarterfinals. I don't think we have to. And I have to get a flight soon. But maybe a quick predictions then, or quick opening thoughts, opening statements on those quarterfinals.
I think in general,
the Champions League first, right?
Yeah, in general, we've talked about how it hasn't been that exciting so far, but the quarterfinals look epic. They look, but the quarterfinals they do look epic. You have Veszprém versus Aalborg, huge game. Montpellier, Kielce. We've seen Montpellier turn up in this competition. Flensburg, Barcelona, again a huge game, and PSG versus Kiel, which is as exciting as you want. And I don't think there's probably one clear game for me in this, and I think it is Kielce to beat Montpellier.
French teams are Kielce's kryptonite in knockout handball. Look back over the years. Nantes, Montpellier, not PSG. For some reason, they seem to deal with that better. But when they're the favourites against either Nantes or Montpellier, they shit the bed.
If I were to guess now, I'd say probably Paris versus Kiel is probably the game that, well, according also to the live blog, where they put on a bit of a vote, and it won the vote for the game that people are most excited to see. So I probably think that's probably going to be the first match of the week. But like I was talking in Veszprém, because I was there the day before yesterday, and I was talking to just people who are working for the club, and I said, "So how do you feel about playing against Aalborg?" And they were like, "To be honest, not good at all." So like the feeling in Veszprém is maybe they're not really exactly brimming with confidence. And before the start of the season, it was the first season in living memory that a lot of the staff members said in the club that it was explicitly said that this season our main goal isn't really to go to the Final Four. No. So that means that Veszprém are going to win the Final Four. Because we know that connection with when you don't really want to be there, and you make it, and you're like, well, we're only here because we're just making up a spot. That means you're going to win the Champions League. So congratulations to Veszprém on winning the Champions League.
But Alex, sorry, you were saying Kielce versus Montpellier is a clear one for you, and then we got in your way. So what we?
No, this is good. I think on other games are all a toss up.
You think Flensburg have a chance against Barca?
Yeah, they have Jim Gottfriedson.
Yeah.
So they have a chance against anyone. And then PSG have the most informed player in the world right now. That is Kamil Shipchak, who is averaging 8.8 goals over his last 5 games at a percentage of 82%. And he is, to my knowledge, the only line player taking 7-meter penalties in top European handball. And he's absolutely smashing it. 15 from 16 in those games.
I just have to say, in match of the week last week, he takes the first one against Elverum and it's saved.
Yeah.
And I said, we won't be seeing him again. And then he scores 12 goals in that game. Be seeing him on the penalty line again. And I was like, oh, there he is again. He scored. Have you been practicing your penalties, Alex, now with a view towards being the next Kamil Shipchak?
I have to start now. I never thought it was possible. I never thought that teams would allow a line player to.
Yeah, I said there's line players all around the world going, wait a second, I can take penalties? They've never taken a penalty in their life.
Yeah.
This isn't legal.
Well, remember that one of the most famous penalties of all time, winning the Champions League for Kielce, was Jule Nagina-Gelde. So there you go. What about you, Brian? So what are you saying here, Alex? First, before we move away from you here, the four teams you would go for, just 4 names, no reasons why.
PSG, Aalborg, Barca, Kielce.
Oh, I mean, there's going to be some shocks, and I think probably one of the shocks would be probably either Barca or PSG won't make it. But I'll probably go for Kielce, Barca. I'll go for Kiel. Throw spanner in the works, and then I'll go for probably Aalborg as well. Actually, yeah, it's tasty. I mean, these games aren't good.
I'm giving up. Veszprem is going to win the Champions League.
No, because I have to go against them now, and then they'll win it.
Yeah. No, these games should be great. How about the European League? Is there some four quarterfinals as well, which are pretty tasty? Magdeburg against Nantes.
That's such a tough one.
I like Nantes against. I don't think we gave Nantes enough credit here against Fuchs. They were phenomenal. Like to win that game away from home, like they did by 3 goals, was really, really impressive. And you mentioned it there before, Brian, on our WhatsApp group. It was like, just have that little bit more Champions League about them. That got them over the line. Will it be the same this time? So, if these 4 teams, or these 4 games, Schaffhausen, Płock, I'll say Płock. Nexe, Georgi, I'll say Georgi. Nantes, Magdeburg. Magdeburg will win the league, so Nantes. I'm going to go against my beloved Magdeburg here. And Benfica against Gorenje. That should be Benfica.
Yeah, funnily enough, I think these games might actually be worse than the last round.
Yeah, looking at it, it's the flip side where we have probably 3 clear games.
Which means they won't be clear at all.
I don't know. I don't think Cadetna are going to do a whole lot. And I can't imagine. I think Godberg is going to be way too strong for next day. And Nantes versus Magdeburg, I think, could be a very, very similar game almost to the Fuchs game. But I think Magdeburg might have a little bit more in them, so that could just go all the way. But I think probably just those young guns that Nantes have are just really impressive. So I'll go for Nantes, and then Benfica I think should +5 over Villeneuve.
They should do, but Villeneuve I thought were out of it altogether, and then how they managed to beat Nîmes, even though they had their injuries, was very impressive. I think so. I wouldn't. Yeah, it's the European League after all. I wouldn't rule them out. Alex is on his way to Vegas now. Yeah, well, don't do anything we wouldn't.
Thank you.
That's like saying, I'm not going to listen to that advice. It's like when your mother says to you. Yeah.
I'll take it away and mull it over.
So now Alex is heading off, and we have to get a flight in a moment, so we'll take a quick look at the women's competitions before we head off. So we're starting the Women's European League. We have the finals now. Quarterfinals are over, and we have the semi-final pairings. EHF finals in the women's competition is going to be in Viborg And the semi-final pairings are Viborg against Bayamare and Herning Ikast against Bietigheim from Germany. So what do you reckon?
Would you say Viborg are probably the favourites for the title?
At home as well, yeah, I think so. They've been brilliant. I think Bayamare are the outsiders, big time. For me, it looks like the big one is Ikast against Herning Ikast against Bietigheim. They've both been brilliant this season. So that's a hard one to call. So basically the winner of that against Viborg in the final should be the way that one concludes. But yeah, nice. 2 Danish teams. Viborg playing at home. That should be like, I think Denmark is a great place for a women's European League final weekend.
Yeah.
And in the Women's Champions League, our beloved FTC in Budapest couldn't pull it off against Krim. So they're out. Another year bites the dust for FTC. So Krim up against Vipers, CSM Bucuresti against Team Esbjerg, Brest against Djur, and Metz are through to the Final Four. They don't have to play against Rostov Don. So 3 quarterfinals there.
I think all of a sudden Krim have become super dangerous with Anna Gross in the mix. So I think Vipers are going to be looking at that going, God, this is awful. Because
it's not what we signed up for.
No. Because beforehand they were thinking we probably have a pretty easy route to the Final Four, and now all of a sudden, God, you might even say that Krim are slight favourites. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, with that boost of a player like that coming in, you're in a team struggling for form, and then you go, oh, we're just going to give you this player who almost scores 10 goals every game. Here she is. Yeah. All right.
There you go.
See you later. So that's a really hard game to call. I probably fancy Krim, to be honest, with the win in their sails. And then CSM versus Esbjerg, I think it's probably tricky to say, but I mean, you'd have to go for Esbjerg. I think probably
they've been the informed team.
Yeah,
this season alongside Djur. Brest looking pretty good.
I did say at the start of the season, if anyone's going to beat Djur this season, it's probably going to be Brest. I'm not sure I feel as strongly about that anymore, but
this is a great test.
This is a great test
over 2 legs. Yeah,
I'm kind of doubting my own predictions here, but I think Djur will probably do it. So we're looking at a Metz, Djur, Krim, Esbjerg Final Four. That's tasty, isn't it? Something different.
Yeah. Either way, however CSM Esbjerg goes and Krim Vipers go, it should be a.
It'd be good either way. Yeah.
All right, I think we wrap it up there. I'll go catch a flight back home. You take the train back home.
Yep.
And thank you to Alex, who's now on his way to earn his fortune in Las Vegas.
It's good to sit with you again, finally.
Yes. Yeah. All right, thank you, everyone. Talk to you soon.